Hi, I'm Meredith Bell, founder and president of Performance Support Systems, and today I'm very excited to interview Kathleen Votaw. Kathleen is the founder and president of TalenTrust, and her company is revolutionizing how other companies attract, keep, and grow their great people, which I love as a purpose. And I'm excited about interviewing her today on her wonderful book called Solving the People Puzzle, with the subtitle, How High Growth Companies Attract and Retain Top Talent. And since I've been focused on the people side of business myself for most of my career, I of course resonated with the message in Kathleen's book, and I'm just so thrilled to have her with us and share her wisdom and experience and expertise that she has gained over the years, because her team is committed to disrupting this whole staffing and recruiting industry, and their approach is unique and I think just so important in today's time. So welcome, Kathleen. Let's get started.
Well, thank you for having me, Meredith. It's a pleasure.
Well, the first thing I want to check with you about is the work that you've been done. If you could tell us a little bit about that, what you've done over the years, so we better understand how you came up with the material for your book, as well as the model that you use when you are working with clients.
Great question. So I started in this industry in 1985 when I was in college, Meredith.
Oh.
And my love affair with solving the people puzzle began that in my sophomore year of college in 1985. I worked for Kelly Corporation, and they were so good to me. I really fell in love with the industry. And, an industry where you can work with any other industry and really affect change. So that's when it all started. And then once I worked for a few companies, including Kelly Corporation, Olston Corporation, and CDI Corporation as an employee, I ventured off into my own as the maverick that I am in 2003. It's the 15-year anniversary of my company.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. We're very excited. We're having a big old party to celebrate. I'm a big believer in you've got to celebrate every accomplishment. So it's not just me. It's so many people have helped me get here and achieve these goals. So in 2003, I went out on my own and really did not have any strategic plan at that point. The company was quite unremarkable for the first 6 years. And then in 2009, when it was a very tough economy for most everyone, I had some time after already being an entrepreneur and being a little bit more comfortable with the bumps and challenges that come along with being self-employed, because it was me, myself, and I in the company from 2003 to 2009. I started to get a little more courageous and take some risks. Came up with the business model that TalenTrust has matured into today, which is really working with clients to build amazing cultures and engaged employees and solutions around talent acquisition, and building a talent acquisition solution that is based on the Berson's 4 levels of talent acquisition maturity. Most companies, and you probably know Berson's work, Meredith, with the work that you do, they are really at a level 1 or a level 0 of talent acquisition maturity, where it's crisis mode, it's reactive, they have no systems and processes, they haven't thought through how to really engage the people that are going to come and choose to work for their company. So the systems and processes that we have been working on since 2003, but more formally in 2009 and 2010, our company kind of hit a wonderful inflection point where we grew 10 times from 2009 to 2015. Almost, killed me, but we did it. And it was very exciting. We've really reached out across the country to many clients. So it's been a fun ride, Meredith, and many people have contributed to this success.
That's great. Well, you're mentioning this thing about people being in crisis mode. One of the things that struck me in your book that, again, I don't see many companies doing is really keeping a pipeline
Yes.
of good candidates waiting. They're instead kind of in a reaction mode. Oh, this person's leaving unexpectedly. We've got to fill that position. So what are your recommendations about what a company could do to avoid that kind of crisis mode so that it's better prepared to bring on new employees?
Well, we at TalenTrust believe that you always need to be cultivating for great people. Think simply ABC. And we have designed a system that truly treats recruitment as a sales process, where you start with employee engagement, really understanding who you are to the audience you're trying to attract, which are the candidates, and then creating lead generation to pull the appropriate people with the cultural alignment and the skills that you need into the discussion about who you are, what you do, what you stand for, and why they should care. And then we bring our clients through specific system through pre-screening, vetting with some proprietary tools that we design with them and for them, some technology that we have repurposed from other companies. Then we train them on how to actually conduct a behavioral-based interview, Meredith, which I know is important in your work as well. Using the tools like you do in your company, the assessments for fit, and then putting these new people, which are investments in your company, on a path to productivity so they can really start contributing to the organization within the first, 60 to 90 days, and then retain that asset that you've acquired. So it's really, we really consider it a holistic human capital approach versus many people come in with engagement software, and that's where they begin and end. Some people come in with behavioral tactics, and that's where they begin and end. We believe all this is completely integrated into the appropriate system and process for our clients to really celebrate success.
And I love that approach. I think that when you look at it in a piecemeal way, you don't get near the results that taking the holistic approach that you do takes. You mentioned company culture, and of course, I'm a big believer in that too, and how important that is for the attraction and especially the retention, because people pick up on that very quickly once they join a company. And you had mentioned some key elements that are really important for a company to consciously develop. Could you talk a little bit about what some of those are?
Yes, well, I believe that culture is foundational for any good processes and systems around finding, keeping, and growing great people. Much like marketing sets the table for sales, and in a culture that is created by design sets the table for good systems and processes around recruitment and talent acquisition. So many people, culture became really sexy in 2015. But and I know, Meredith, nobody knows what it is, what to do with it, how to implement, how to measure it, how to actually sustain a culture by design versus by default. So the first thing we do when we work with companies is really help them understand where their culture is today so they can affect it and give the guardrails to the culture so people know what it means to work for an organization. Because the definition of culture is really how people experience your company. It's not your products, it's not your services, it's not your systems. How does someone experience your company, whether they're an employee, a vendor, a customer, a competitor? What do you stand for? What are your values? What are your attitudes, your traditions, your beliefs that you stand for, that you put a stake in the ground for? And so many business leaders forget to share these really important principles with their employees, that this is who we are, this is what we stand for, this is how it works here, and this is what doesn't work here. It's just as important to be as in touch with your non-negotiables as it is with your values, your attitudes, your traditions, and your beliefs. And we have to value that as business owners and leaders, help people understand what we stand for, what works in our organizations, and then that through that filter, invite people to join in the journey.
Mm-hmm. That makes perfect sense. Because I think too often a business owner starts the company with an idea in mind for a product or service,
Right.
and is focused on that. And as they grow and add more people, it just, there's often not a lot of thought given to what do we stand for, and so how does that impact everything else that we do. So I agree with you. It is really very foundational. There was another chapter in your book that I absolutely loved. It was called Become Simply Irresistible.
Yes.
And
remember that song, Simply Irresistible?
Yeah, I love that. And so we don't often think, though, about that word for our company. Maybe as far as customers go, we want
Yes.
an irresistible choice. But as far as potential employees go, we don't often think about that. So I just thought that was a wonderful approach and a wonderful word to use. So what I guess I want to get you to kind of share with us, what are 2 or 3 things that leaders could do to create a company where people really want to work there?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, really defining that culture is step number 1. Who are you and what do you stand for? And then creating a meaningful engagement, purpose. What is our reason for being? So I'll share TalenTrust's reason for being here is first and foremost to build great companies. We want to help companies be better, do better work, engage their employees, have a more productive outcome. And this tension that we have created between employers and employees in the workplace really is dysfunctional when you think about it. And, you know, Meredith, many times I'll have this moment where I go, this is really simple. Just be nice and be kind to people and, you know, and say please and thank you and, you know who you stand for. But really it's hard when you put it into the language of companies. And there's revenue, and there's gross margin, there's profitability, and there's so much at stake. People forget their manners. Look at our world today. People have forgotten manners, some fundamentals that we have to get back to. So that's number 1. So creating meaning and purpose, really attaching why you do what you do, to borrow from my friend Simon Sinek, versus what you're trying to do. Why are you doing it? So the reason TalenTrust does what we do is we want to inspire companies. We want to make them better. We want to help them grow. The second key reason that we exist is to, at least that I exist, and I get up every morning, is to provide for the people that that follow me into uncertainty every day. I have 22 people who choose to follow me every single day. And I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Nobody does. And I have a responsibility to those 22 individuals, their children, and their families. And so we are accountable to each other for our success. If I fail, then they fail. If they fail, then I fail. So it's kind of that 3 musketeers thing, but it's 22 musketeers, one for all and all for one. And we really are very focused on celebrating our core values. Our core values are very firm. One of them, I'll give you an example, is we do the right thing even if it's hard. People are empowered in our company to make decisions when they are interacting with our customers and with each other. I'd rather them seek forgiveness than ask for permission. They are empowered to make things happen and innovate for the company. So those are a couple things that you can do to make it irresistible. We also have a virtual and remote workforce, which I encourage companies to embrace as we grow up in this digital age. You can really bring in amazing human beings when you create a flexible work environment.
Yeah.
people want to live their lives, and they don't live to work, they work to live. So one of the basic principles of our company and many companies that we engage with is we want to have fun along the way. We're not just working and grinding through it. We're actually having a good time while we're doing it.
Yes, that's great. I think those are some really important tips, because companies need to look at it, because as you mentioned in your book too, we're facing a shortage of workers now. And so therefore, companies really do have to set themselves apart. So they need to look at it from the perspective of a potential employee. Why would they choose us over someone else? And you gave a couple of examples in your book about companies that didn't get the person that they had hoped for because they didn't stand out enough. So I'd love to get you to share one or two of the success stories to make it more concrete and real for the folks that are watching this video, to get a sense of what kind of work do you do? What kind of difference do you make with companies? Could you give us one or two before and after examples?
Sure. Well, we work with companies throughout the country. They're typically middle market, but we are actually starting to venture into the Fortune 500. We have one Fortune 500 company that we're working with right now, and it's very exciting. We're a great fit from a values perspective. So I'll share a couple stories with you, Meredith, on some great successes that we've had. We work with a company here locally in Colorado, and again, we work throughout the United States. They're an advertising production company, and they are growing. They're disrupting their own industry, and they have wonderful human resources people who help lead the company. But from a culture, engagement, talent acquisition perspective, and training on behavioral-based interviewing and the processes and systems, they were falling short. They didn't have the resources to really actually address the systems. So when we first came in, the company was about at $12 million in revenue. They have a global workforce, global, I mean Dubai, London, it is very global. And they have such a strong culture that they have people referring people to the organization all the time. But they didn't have a system and process and how to harness that resource. So if I wanted to represent you, Meredith, to my company, I could refer you, but then nothing would ever happen with you again. Now, that's not an experience that you want to have when you're all excited about a company. And this company has grown to about 20 million. We've been with them for 3 years. So they have an employee referral, organic referral organization that they were squandering. And it was so powerful. All they needed was some systems in how to engage those people who were organically being referred into the organization. So we put a system together where we could every month engage you, Meredith, into the organization, what we're doing, why we're doing what we're doing, who we're doing it with. So when the time was right, you were ready and we were ready to bring you on board, and you were already somewhat educated about what we were trying to achieve. That's one story. At that same company, they had no common language around what good looked like in the right candidate, right cultural and value alignment and skills. So we developed some systems and processes around that, including a scorecard, embedding an applicant tracking system into the organization, and also some assessment tools that can really help companies. And I know you do a lot of assessment work, Meredith. They can help companies take the emotion out of the discussion. We really understand people's thinking style, behaviors, and their top interests. So that's one really great kind of middle market emerging company story that's been very successful. On the other side of it, we're working with an oil and gas company that's a $14 billion organization. They had a talent acquisition organization that really was more reactive than proactive for the organization. We stepped in, Meredith, and did our people puzzle gap analysis, which really diagnoses the issues that customers are experiencing in their culture, in their employment branding, in their talent acquisition, et cetera. Think of it as a strategic plan based on the health and wellness of your culture, your employment brand, and your talent acquisition. So it complements a strategic plan and goes deeper into the people issues. And what we have found is they have no brand. They're a $14 billion company that has no brand, and anybody who wants to work in oil and gas can't find them. So that was alarming to them and to us. So we've actually put them on the map. We've done some social media campaigns for them. We have people actually coming into them. About 44% of their organization is referring people, which is a healthy organization. The rest are more external hires now. We've trained the community on common language around talent acquisition and interviewing, and there's so much more work to be done there. But the most amazing thing for me was that a $14 billion company didn't have a brand. It didn't have an identity.
That is amazing.
It is amazing, but what the key thing is, many companies forget this important audience. And when we're designing marketing materials, we're so careful about our audience, our Fortune 500 audience, our middle market audience, and we slice and dice it like a pizza. But when it comes to an employee audience, we don't even think that way. So it's applying marketing principles to the employment audience. And we partner with some great agencies to help us do this for our clients as well. So it's really, those are two wonderful success stories. There's also additional success stories with construction, manufacturing, professional services. We're industry agnostic and we work throughout the states, that you can access at TalentTrust.com, one T in the middle, under client success stories, which could tell you even more great stories.
Oh, great. Well, that was one of the things I wanted to ask you in closing, is let people know, because you have such a great success rate. You've got a unique approach that really works, and your values, your core system of how you treat people yourself, and your whole team is that way. Their commitment to excellence. I just think you are a fabulous organization for companies to work with. So take a moment and tell people how they can get your book, as well as where they can find you, either on social media, or mention your website again, so that if they'd like to know more about your services, they can easily connect with you.
Well, thank you very much. So certainly we have a website. It's TalentTrust.com, one T in the middle. And you also can call our main number at 303-838-3334. I'm at extension 5, but hit any extension and talk to anyone on the team. I'm also a professional speaker, which was really, because I wrote the book, then the speaking career kind of followed. So I'm available to speak for corporations on any of these issues: solving the people puzzle, behavioral-based interviewing, creating great cultures, Me Too, now what? What do you do in a Me Too world? So there's many different topics that you could select from to help you inspire your employees. And just, we're really trying to align with companies that are value-focused throughout the country, that are middle market or Fortune 500, and we really honor the fact that you're showcasing companies, and humbled that you would have us today.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Kathleen, and I just want to continue wishing you great success, and I'm excited about collaborating with you on some projects that we could do together. Meanwhile, be sure to pick up a copy of Kathleen's book and get in touch with her and connect with her. She's just such a great individual, and I'm excited to know her. And thank you again for joining me today, Kathleen.
Thank you, Meredith. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.